Good morning. My name is Mariana and I'm the founder and owner of Mariana Carroll Consulting. What an absolute privilege it is to welcome each one of you to this online conversation with human resource thought leader and advisor, Jen de Kooker. At Mariana Carroll Consulting, our aim is simple. We want to be your emerging technology consulting and training provider of choice. We love to add value, to build trust, and we truly strive for excellence. We like to do things different, and I'm truly of the opinion that nothing is impossible. Challenges usually present the greatest opportunities. Thank you for taking a quick 30 minutes out of your busy schedules. How great it is just to have an opportunity like this to learn from each other and to gain some new insights. Thank you so much for joining us. It is now my amazing honor to introduce our guest speaker of this morning, Jen de Kooker. She very quickly grew to be an awesome friend of mine, and I'm so spoiled to have her in my life. Jen is happily married, she's mum of 2 handsome young men, and she's building a professional partner network that enable synergistic opportunities through convergent collaboration. And you'll hear Jen absolutely love those 2 words, convergent collaboration. She's also a strong advocate for women's empowerment. She's an independent human capital management consultant. I know that's a mouthful, but she's really promoting organizational effectiveness and business transformation by harnessing time, talent, and the energy of the workforce. Jen is truly an amazing woman, an awesome friend, and a leader. Jen, it is such an honor to have you share your insights, your experience, and your valuable knowledge around planning for the skills gap in this future envisioned digital ecosystem. In our previous online conversation, for the ones that actually joined us previously with technology leader and advisor Kamal Ram Singh, we unpacked how the IT organization of the future would manifest and what considerations and implications that may have on the enterprise IT function. The conversation led to fascinating discussions around future staffing and skills planning. This morning, the aim is to continue that discussion with Jen, as she will be sharing some insights and ideas around the importance of mature relationships between people and technology and breaching this ever-increasing digital skills gap in the so-called digital ecosystem. Jen, we have had many conversations around this need for organizational change that allow organizations to stay abreast of changes and to leverage technology as a key business enabler. But in preparation for this envisioned future organization, how do we get ready to close the many gaps that we so often hear about?
Thank you, Mariana, and thank you to everybody on the call this morning, either on the visuals or just on the audio as you're sitting out there in traffic this morning. Good luck with that. I just say smile and wave. So thank you again, Mariana, for this wonderful and exciting opportunity to share the insights and ideas around the importance of mature relationships between people and technology. And I think the one thing that I would love to just say up front is that we're all together in this boat. No one is alone. We're all facing the same challenges, but I think the beauty of having this conversation today is that together is better and there's power in the collective. And as we go through this journey and in the discussion, based on the research that I've done, based on readings that I've been doing in my own time, and essentially what I've been experiencing out there in the industry and just observing with my interactions that I've had with CEOs, CIOs, and heads of HR, that I'd love to share with you this morning and continue this conversation. So I think in the next slide, for those who can actually view the next slide, for me, I love this visual. And of course, I love, for those of you that know me, I love color. I love this visual because it really depicts a snapshot of the mindset in this digital age that we are all challenged with. And it is our reality, and it really positions in a nutshell what our conversation is all about this morning, to really rethink, reimagine, and reset the mindset and skill set for this digital age. So I think let's just talk about the current situation that we find ourselves in, and let's just set the scene. And I think one of the key questions for me is, How do we get ready to close the gaps we so often hear about? I mean, this is not a new topic. We've been talking about this for how many years? And we are facing now this reality is becoming more and more real and more pressing, and the urgency is starting to ramp up. So the question is, what do we need to do in preparation for the envisaged, future organization? We understand organizational change is needed to stay abreast of changes, and leveraging technology is going to be a key business enabler. But given the pace of change and the constant pressure that we're all under to adapt, it's not surprising that global executives identified building the organization of the future as the most important trend for 2017. That through Deloitte's Human Capital Trends report recently released. And even South African respondents to that trend analysis have also rated the organization of the future as the #1 trend for this year. And as we all know, the world is changing at a rapid pace. We all feel it, we all know it. And employee needs are also evolving fast and furiously. Their working life needs to include different types of working arrangements to match flexible, dynamic working styles for this digital age. Another key word, the word that I love so much, is all around collaboration. Collaborating as network teams is becoming increasingly important, and the traditional organization models with many layers of management, complex organizational structures, procedures, and red tape will increasingly hamper competitiveness in the disrupted future world of work. So let's take a snapshot view of the current reality. The skills gap divide between people and technology. What is being said out there, and what does the research reveal? So I think maybe it's just to kick off on this particular point, let us talk through some problem statements. And let me share some of the research from subject matter experts out there in the industry. And for me, with all the buzz and hype around digital transformation, what can organizations do to reinvent their businesses now and keep up with the competitors? So a mature and responsible relationship between humans and technology will bridge the digital skills divide, guiding people from digital refugees to digital citizens. This was one of the topics of conversation at a recent technology gathering in Johannesburg. The event was hosted by Eiffel Corp, leaders in educational technology in Africa, saw 6 panel experts discuss the digital skills gap in the workplace. The debate, of course, as you would imagine, was lively and reiterated that technology alone is not a solution for 20th century problems. People need to take responsibility for their own learning to prove their need in the workplace versus automation and software is already part of almost all our jobs, said Stefan du Plessis. He's the commercial director at Eiffel Corp. It's the employer's responsibility to facilitate professional development, said du Plessis emphatically. Some panel members actually believe that learners are not prepared for the workforce, and the employer then has the responsibility of digital skills training, but often the employer isn't skilled themselves. So it's not technology that's the problem, it's the human who is expected to adapt to a social system they don't know how to navigate, and who is then alienated from the work and seen as lacking skill when they are not in fact lacking, said Dr. Felicity Kuchlin, Director of Independent Institute of Education and Group Academic Director for Agritech. Digital literacy should be embedded in the curriculum from a very young age. And if we don't innovate fast enough, the digital divide is going to get wider and wider, and people without access will be left behind. The major disruption of our times is digital, and digital isn't just about the IT department. This is a real game changer on every level. And while all this is happening at a speed of note, organizations are sometimes standing still, aware of the challenge, but not yet taking action, almost paralyzed. Older technologies still do the trick, perhaps given a false sense of security, and businesses don't quite know when to take the leap from the incumbent technology to the incoming technology. This delay has a real impact on decision making, most notably in the skills gap that is created. So Mariana mentioned earlier about this digital ecosystem, and what does it actually mean? So I think ecosystems are the future of digital, according to Peter Sonnengard from Gartner. As digitalization matures, more enterprises are joining digital ecosystems. This raises technology, organizational, and leadership challenges for CIOs. So let's look at what is the definition of a digital ecosystem. Really, it is, in a nutshell, an independent group of enterprises, people, and/or things that share standardized digital platforms for a mutually beneficial purpose. Could be for commercial gain, for innovation, or just common interest. So digital ecosystems enable you to interact with your customers, your partners, adjacent industries, and even with your competition. Avoiding participation is not an option. I don't think we have a choice. It's not negotiable. Digital ecosystems are converting industry models from simple relationships to distributed partnerships. So building a strong ecosystem will help manage this transition. Let's have a look at some Gartner statistics indicate what this is all about in terms of the digital ecosystem. So Gartner's primary research shows 79% of top performing digital organizations indicate participation in a digital ecosystem versus 49% of average performers. And CIOs have told Gartner that they will double the number of ecosystem partners within the next 2 years. These are some very interesting statistics. So what are the current challenges that you and your organization and organizations out there facing today? And again, I just want to reiterate, we are not alone in this. We are all in the same boat and we're facing similar challenges today. Upskilling your workforce could take on the challenge of the digital age. However, a survey conducted by a top university in Germany indicated that many companies are ill-equipped to compete in today's digital economy. In fact, 83% reported their employees don't have the skills necessary to be successful in the digital era. What's more, 73% of executive leaders said that they lack the technical knowledge to develop a successful digital strategy. So today, a new set of digital business and working skills are definitely required for employees. But despite broad awareness of its digital skills gap, companies are not necessarily putting employee development at the top of strategic growth agendas. Decision makers know the steps required to move forward, but oftentimes do them in the wrong order. Learning in an IT context is usually an afterthought when the strategy is already done, the product decided on, and the product purchased already. To execute effectively, skill and strategy development have to happen first and at the same time. So that means upskilling employees in every area of the business, from the top executive to employees supporting various areas of the organization. If you don't know the technology, you cannot exploit the potential of the technology for the business. So it's not enough just to have a few IT people trained up to help with implementation or to troubleshoot ideas or issues. Employees lacking the skills to contribute strategically to a new business model or objective could slow down the speed of innovation that organizations expect from the digital transformation. If employees don't know what's possible with that technology or even know how to use it, the organization could miss out on new opportunities for their business. So effectively, the skills gap can become a hurdle in being successful in the digital transformation. So let's talk about enabling. So we've heard a lot about what the problems are, problem statements, where are organizations facing challenges. But let's talk about enabling learning as a strategic imperative. And let's talk about some assessments and platforms and tools that are needed to facilitate dialogues and enable upskilling and training as a strategic business imperative for your organization. And another very important thing, in order to kick off or to kickstart this kind of culture change, and that's what I see it as, we talk about mindset shifts and a paradigm shift that is needed. We need to encourage, nurture, and retain the best talent, digital and otherwise. Organizations will need to focus on the importance of learning and at the same time attract new digital talent. As L&D sits within HR have the perfect opportunity to come up with a learning framework for addressing the disruption caused by digitalization. After all, being digital has to do with people and how people operate. So when implementing new technologies and processes into your workforce, you need to consider socializing the idea with all stakeholders, especially those that will be using it every day, and not just on an executive level. This will give you buy-in from your workforce and also ensure that the process is sustainable and won't have to be updated, replaced, or changed over and over again, month after month. Business, legal, and ethical policies shape what your partners can do. So it's critical to educate the executive leadership team on the importance of digital ecosystems in an organization. Describe the potential value of ecosystems, the why. You're not only building a digital business, but a more connected, more efficiently digital society, from smarter cities to agricultural systems that can feed billions of people. Discuss the role your organization will play. So what is this all about? When will you lead? When will you partner? And when will you find you have to do both? And very important, because everything is happening at a speed of note, embrace the speed of change. Consider how the digital future will require greater speed in the operating model and make plans to adapt to a higher organizational tempo. Start driving a culture of speed and responsiveness. It is important to understand how strategy, connectedness, customers, and talent pools are all changing as part of the digital transformation revolution, and to implement organizational change accordingly. Also, what you could consider through some of the research and reading that I've done is create conditions for flexible teams. So build agile thinking. We've heard a lot about this. How do we build agile thinking? How do we break down artificial structures to enable employees to collaborate more effectively? Invest in better enabling systems to support collaboration, information sharing, and the real-time monitoring of results in a dynamic manner. Another thing or point that you possibly could consider is new skills for our leaders. Very, very important point. Identifying the new leadership approaches, styles, requirements that are required to lead new organizational models. Begin assessing and developing leaders with the skills and cognitive ability to operate in networked teams, including agile and innovative thinking, emotional intelligence, and social flexibility, as well as resilience. So, put your people first, since it's great people that make an organization thrive at the end of the day. Great talent will conduct the digital transformation of business, products, and services, and boost competitiveness. So, as we get to a very interesting topic, and certainly one that I am very passionate about, and I'm sure many of you on the call out there today are also equally passionate about. Just want to share some of my closing comments and thoughts on this particular topic with you, and then we can maybe look to see if there's other possible thoughts and comments and inputs from the audience. So, from my point of view, there is no silver bullet or quick fix. No, definitely no magic wand. But what I'd like to say is, let's draw a line in the sand today and say it's time. Yes, technology is a key enabler, and knowledge fuels digital transformation. Learning must start at the beginning of the digital transformation journey. So start with a skills transformation plan, and you can tweak it as the business evolves, but start somewhere, draw that line in the sand and say, it's time, and let us begin. The bottom line, organizations that start their digital transformations with talent development will have the biggest gains from transformation. So again, start now. Time is of the essence. And let's continue this conversation. And for me, the call to action to everyone on the call today, why don't we start a series of conversations? Let's think about how we can take this conversation forward. It's a mammoth monster of a topic. Certainly one that needs a lot of time, a lot of input, a lot of debate, which is all healthy and good. So I would really like to put that out there to you, and let's start the conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time this morning to dial in and listen to the insights and thoughts that I could share with you. And thank you, Mariana, for creating the platform for this opportunity to discuss this very important and relevant topic.
Thank you so much, Jen. That was incredible. And thank you for sharing your insights and your thoughts. I think there were so many valuable points. It is such an honor to have you joining us and just sharing your ideas and all these wonderful insights that you have. I know you've done a lot of research, and I think there were so many touch points. I think as Gary actually just said in one of his comments as well, he said, I agree, learning must be strategic, not just for individuals wanting to improve their quals. HR play a key role. And he just highlighted that he absolutely loved that slide of your building blocks. And I mean, I couldn't agree actually more. So thank you so very much for sharing that with us. We had some questions from the audience. The first one is saying, Jen, we've spoken around digital skills development. What do we need to be thinking of as adapting of digital requires a lot of behavioral changes, especially in leadership and management experience. For instance, I'm using Zoom from the car because I can't fit all in meetings in one day. So Jen, any thoughts on that?
Look, I'm also going to put it out there. I'm certainly not the SME, but I know we've got many SMEs on the call today. So I would love to open it up as well to the audience if they want to participate and come forward with what they think. I would love for their input. So please put up your hand if you have some thoughts on that very relevant question. And it's a great question, very pertinent one. And I think it spoke back to where does change start? It really starts with our leaders. And I think one of the key points that I highlighted here right in my conversation is that after all, being digital has to do with people and how people operate. And when we're implementing new technologies, whether Zoom or whatever, and all the wonderful platforms that are out there and processes into your workforce, you need to consider socializing the idea with all stakeholders, especially those that will be using it every day, not just on an executive level. But this will give you buy-in for your workforce and also ensure processes are sustainable and won't have to be updated or replaced and constantly changed. But I do believe that it starts at the top, and why I said consider new skills for leaders, because we need to identify the new leadership approaches. What does that look like? Through styles, requirements required to lead such a new organizational model, it's going to look different. So what is those behaviors that are needed? Can we use assessments? What assessment tools can we use to understand what is required? Because as we looked at that research, 73% of our executive leaders lack the technical knowledge to develop, that's besides the technical knowledge, what about the behaviors that need to support and to enable? And that's why I absolutely agree with that one comment, is that HR sits right at the center point of all of this. It is an unbelievable opportunity that HR have to begin assessing for and developing leaders with skills and cognitive ability to operate differently in network teams, including that whole agile, innovative thinking. We spoke about emotional intelligence. How do we assess for emotional intelligence? Social flexibility. What about the programs around building resilience that we need to be thinking of in the complex world that we are in, and the work that we are facing, the way that we work?
Jen, that is so good, and I think we can actually continue this discussion for many more hours. And I also just want to quickly get to Tasha's question around how do you start a digital transformational skills plan? And I know we are running low on time, but I would really just love to hear one or two of your key thoughts around how do we start this. So we've heard about this journey. How do we now go about doing this?
Absolutely, and I think for me, again, I'm going to put it out there, because for me, together is better, and there's power in the collective. I think for me, we need to start a series of conversations. I think I'm going to put it back to the audience, because we've got valuable questions that are coming through. And as we can clearly see, in 30 minutes, we are not going to be able to answer all the questions. And these are real, absolutely urgent questions that need to be understood. So I'm going to put it back to the audience, and I'm going to say, and I'm going to encourage, how can we take this conversation forward? I would love to hear your thoughts, because I think it's real. Let's start a series of conversations with like-minded people on the call today that believe we can take this forward. Maybe inviting focus group discussions with SMEs, looking at organizations out there, maybe speaking to business leaders, to HR leaders in organizations that already have started with their skills transformation plan of their digital transformation journey. Let's bring the SMEs, our learning development specialists, and we know we've got them on the call here today, that can empower us and help us build a framework. And that is where we need to start. Let's start that, at least with that conversation, and let's partner together to make this real and tackle this mammoth topic, monster of a topic, in bite-sized chunks.
That's very good, Jen. And I think we've already had many interesting comments back from the audience as well. And thank you all so much for your participation. There's one last question, and I know we only have like 1 minute left. But Louis was asking, so what would the role, sorry, and my screen is now jumping in front of me, but what would the role of the extended digital ecosystem be? For instance, increasing suppliers and partners to fulfill an important role in closing this skills gap?
Yeah, again, I think, Mariana, thank you for the call. I think, again, we need to put it out there, and let's have the conversation, and let's invite input, because I think there are SMEs out there that will need to give inputs into these very pertinent and relevant questions that are being posted today. And I think what is important, if we can capture these questions, I would like to say to Louis, let's park that, let's get back to you, and let's find a way. And I think let's bring the SMEs on the call with us, and let's continue to tap into these very, very good questions that have been posted to us today. And let's get this conversation continued.
That's fantastic, Jen, and thank you so very much. Thank you so much for all of your questions and for just participating. I love to see all these comments coming through. And what we'll also do is, because we are running a bit just low on time, we'll just distribute this into the email list of all that was on the call as well. So you can actually see the conversation, especially if you were driving and you didn't actually have your screen in front of you. So we will be distributing that. And then, as Jen said, I think this is really only the start of the conversation. I think there's many relevant and valid questions. So also, if you would like to think about different questions or some other key areas in the same topic that we can address as part of an SME session, please let us know. You can contact me at mariana@marianacarroll.com or info@marianacarroll.com, and we can then incorporate all of those questions into an SME session and really get this conversation going, because I really believe that there's a great opportunity if people and technology in this special digital age come together. And we do need to think collectively about how we tackle this and how we are clever about how we actually build our skills and capabilities within our organization. What an absolute honor and privilege it was to spend some time with you on this webinar. Jen, again, thank you very much for the great conversation. Thank you so much for provoking our thoughts around this great topic. As we said, it is only the beginning. I hope we can really all connect soon again around this whole thing around skills and capabilities. Please visit our website and leave your comments. We really just see this as the beginning of a great continued online conversation. Thank you all very, very much for joining. I really hope you have a wonderful, wonderful Friday. Have a good day. Bye.